Okay, today we're going to begin our study of styling. So in HTML, we learned how to add elements to our web pages, and the web pages are pretty boring. The background is white, the font is black, just a standard default font. The tables don't have any grid lines and things like that. So that's what styling is for. So we like to separate the elements in HTML from the styling in CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Recall that we use HTML to put things into our web pages. In order to style those elements, we use CSS. So here's a little image just to remind you. HTML organizes text into different elements, but CSS defines the styles of those element types. Now, there are 3 different ways to do styling in CSS, but we're only going to do one type of styling, the type of styling that is used by professional web designers. But for your reference, there's something called inline styling that applies to a single element on a web page. There's internal style rules that can apply to multiple elements within a single page. And then the third one, which is the one you're probably only going to care about. External style rule can apply to multiple elements on multiple pages within the site. So the idea is to have one styling sheet that applies to all the pages in your website. So in this class, we're going to use something called external styling. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that for you. The nice thing about CSS is that we can apply the same type of styling to all the pages of our website. So as the user moves from page to page within our website, they are seeing consistency page to page in terms of font color, colors used, website theme, etc. Like for example, if you go to our district website, you see consistency. You see the same background color on every page. You see the same font on every page. Like for example, when I go to the website, let's go to the home page first. Let's go to the home page. This is what the home page looks like with the colors, white and green. I see different shades of green and black for text. Like if I click on the staff portal, which is where I am most of the time, I see that consistency, the same colors, the same fonts, the same styling being used. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, so let's go back and take a look at our basic code file. So we started with this and we kind of glossed over this line of code right here. So I'm going to highlight that. That's important. So this right here, it uses a link tag, which we haven't seen before. So this line of code, which appears between head and slash head, and if you recall, information between head and slash head is only needed for the browser. So within there, we have this command to link our HTML files to something called a style sheet. And the name of our style sheet is style.css. So we're going to need to create that, and all of our styling will go in here. We will use Notepad++ to create that, and we'll go from there. So you notice a line in the head section, so between here and here, that links a file called style.css. So that is an important file name. This is where we will put all of our styling for our website. At this time, follow the video instructions to create the style CSS file in Notepad++ for your website. So what you're going to just see me do, so I'm in Notepad++. I have all 4 of my files open. So all you do is say File New. I have a blank file here, and we're just going to leave it blank. But what I want to do is go ahead and save it into the folder. So just like everything else, everything goes in one folder. Now, this is not an HTML file. This is of a different type. So the first thing that we want to do is come down here, and we're going to look for a file called Cascading Style Sheets, or CSS. So if I look through the list, here it is. It's all spelled out, Cascading Style Sheet. The files will end in .css. Now, back here in our code, we're telling the browser that the name of our file will be style.css. So if I go back to where I just was, I'm going to change the name. So in front of the period, I'm going to say style.css. Okay? So I'm going to make sure I'm saving it in the demo website folder. And I made one earlier, so that's why it's asking me to replace. So let's just leave that blank for now, and we're going to come back to that in a little bit. Now, to style, we will use a completely different syntax. We will use something called property value pairs to define our styling. So notice we'll say a property, we'll separate it with a colon, and then we'll say the value. So here's an example. Let's say I wanted to style something like text red. Well, the name of the property is color. I separate by colon, and the value, we can use color by name, red. So how are you going to learn what all the different properties are? Well, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but we will be using W3 Schools. So if I go back to the W3 Schools homepage, you'll see, so we spent a lot of time in learning HTML. Well, guess where we're going now? We're going to go learn CSS. So I'm just going to click on that for right now. Back to my document. So at the end of the day, the power of using an external styling sheet like style.css is to style is that we can apply our styling to multiple elements spread across multiple sheets. So, and that's what this little graphic is telling you. There are different ways that we will see styling applied in our external style sheet. We will use the selector, and you'll learn more about that as we move on, to identify which elements we want to style. Then we will use a set of curly brackets to define what is included in the styling for each element. So typically, I like to list each property value pair on its own line with a semicolon at the end of the line. But you can put all of the property value pairs on the same command line separated by a comma. So my way is going to be to put the selector name, a set of curly brackets, and then each property value pair separated by a colon. Now the other option is to give it the name of the selector, the set of curly brackets, but to put all the property value pairs on one line. At the end of every property value pair, you put a semicolon and a space. So it's very similar to what you've done up here. I guess I like using it like this. I just like things listed vertically myself, but some people don't like their CSS file to be long. They want it to be short, and they like to do it like this. So I don't really care which way that you do it, but I'm not going to lie, if you need help, this is way more difficult for me to help you than this version. Okay, so once again, we'll be using W3 Schools a lot to find styling examples. Once you get the hang of it, you will find that you can investigate different types of styling yourself. But generally speaking, selecting the color theme that you plan on using is a tricky thing. So the color and the color theme you plan on using in your website is a tricky thing. Here's an interesting article about how to use the psychology of color to increase website conversations. At the end of the day, just because you can play with color doesn't mean that you always should play with color. You want your website to draw traffic or visitors, not turn them away because of obnoxious colors you select. So I know I'm going to end this video pretty quickly, but this article is worth reading for sure. At the end of the day, you should only use color under certain circumstances and in the right way. At the bottom, it tells you how women don't like certain colors, but they like blue, purple, and green. It also goes on to give you examples. Men don't like purple, orange, and brown. They like blue, green, and black. You use blue to cultivate somebody's trust. Oh, look what's blue. Facebook.